I never thought I'd bury a secret deep enough to choke on it for 15 years. But that's what love does. It turns you into a goddamn accomplice. The night my husband, Tom, came home reeking of cheap bourbon and someone else's perfume, I didn't just forgive him. I erased the evidence. Lied to the cops about his whereabouts during that bar fight that left a man paralyzed from the waist down. And for what? So he could wake up the next morning, kiss me like nothing happened, and build the white picket fence life we dreamed of in this godforsaken Chicago suburb. But secrets have a way of rotting from the inside out. And when Evelyn, his mother, slithered into our home like a bad omen, she sniffed it out faster than a bloodhound on a fresh kill. It started innocently enough. Or, at least that's the lie we told ourselves. Tom had just turned 45. His construction firm was booming with those post-recession contracts, and I was juggling my part-time gig as a graphic designer while keeping our boy, Ethan, from turning into one of those screen zombie kids. Evelyn was 62, widowed for a decade, her arthritis flaring up like clockwork every winter. Just until spring, Tom said, unloading her Louis Vuitton suitcase in our guest room, the one with the floral wallpaper that always smelled faintly of mothballs. I smiled through gritted teeth, baked her a lemon bundt cake, and pretended her hawkish eyes weren't already dissecting every inch of my domain. Family's family. Mila, Tom murmured that first night, his hand warm on my lower back as we waved her goodnight from the hallway. God. I wanted to believe him. But Evelyn wasn't the doting grandma type. She was a Southern transplant who'd clawed her way from a shotgun shack in Alabama to a Gold Coast condo, marrying up twice and burying both husbands under suspicious heart attacks that the family whispers never quite pinned down. She moved like she owned the place from day one, rearranging my spice rack alphabetically, critiquing the lazy folds in my fitted sheets, and, oh, the passive-aggressive jabs about my bohemian bob haircut clashing with Tom's executive polish. Ethan, bless his 8-year-old soul, took to her like a moth to flame, dazzled by her tales of debutante balls and moonshine runs. Nana says you're like a wildflower. Mommy, pretty but weeds out easy, he told me one afternoon, crayon in hand, oblivious to the knife she'd just twisted. Tom changed incrementally, like a frog in boiling water. At first, it was small. He'd linger longer at the dinner table, hanging on her every word about the old days, how she'd sacrificed everything for him after his daddy ran off with the church secretary. Then came the late nights in the den, their laughter filtering through the walls while I scrubbed pots alone, wondering if I was paranoid or just finally seeing the cracks. One evening, after she'd accidentally spilled red wine on my favorite silk blouse, the one from our honeymoon in Napa, he didn't apologize. Instead, he snapped,
Jesus. Mila.
It's just a shirt. Mom didn't mean it. His eyes. Those hazel eyes I'd fallen for at a backyard barbecue in '08. Flickered with something cold. Unfamiliar. I swallowed the lump in my throat, told myself it was stress from the firm's new bid on that high-rise downtown. By month 2, the rot had set in deep. Evelyn started helping with the bills, her manicured nails flipping through our statements like a prosecutor at trial. That's when she found it, the old charge on my card from that night 15 years ago. The one for the motel room I'd booked under a fake name to give Tom an alibi. I'd paid cash mostly, but the Uber receipt lingered like a ghost in the digital ether. Darling, she cooed over coffee one morning. Tom's still upstairs shaving. What's this little indiscretion? A girl's trip you forgot to mention? Her smile was saccharine, but her eyes, sharp as broken glass, promised exposure. I froze, the mug burning my palms. It's nothing, I lied, voice steady as I could manage. Just a work thing. She nodded slowly, but I saw the gears turning, the way her tongue clicked against her teeth like she was tasting blood. That afternoon, I confronted Tom in the garage. Amid the scent of sawdust and motor oil from his latest project, a birdhouse for Ethan that he'd never finished. Your mother's digging.
Tom.
She's got no right. He wiped his hands on a rag, avoiding my gaze.
Mila.
She's family. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. The word stung like a slap. I grabbed his arm, nails digging in. She'll ruin us. That night. You know what it means. His face hardened, jaw clenching the way it did before a storm.
We don't talk about that.
Ever. It's buried. But nothing stays buried when Evelyn's around. She had a nose for weakness, a talent for turning whispers into weapons. Ethan noticed too, in that pure, unfiltered way kids do. He'd stopped leaving his drawings on the fridge. Evelyn called them childish scribbles and started shadowing me in the kitchen, his small hand tugging my apron. Why's Daddy yelling at you now? Mom? Nana says you're making him sad. I knelt, smoothing his tousled brown hair. So like Tom's. Grown-up stuff.
Buddy.
Nana's just adjusting. But inside, rage simmered. A slow boil I'd learned to cap since that night in the motel. When I'd chosen him over everything, my integrity, my future. If she'd blow it open, it'd drag us all under. Tom's career, Ethan's stability, my fragile peace. The first real fracture came on a crisp October evening, leaves crunching underfoot as we raked the yard. Evelyn emerged from the house in her cashmere sweater, a photo album tucked under her arm like contraband. Thought we'd reminisce, she announced, settling on the porch swing with a glass of my Chardonnay. Tom dropped his rake, eager as a puppy, while I lingered by the oak tree, rake idle in my hands. She flipped pages yellowed with time, baby Tom in sailor suits, her at galas dripping in pearls. Then,
a pause.
Her finger tracing a faded snapshot, her and Tom's father, arms linked at a Christmas party, smiles wide but eyes distant. He left because of her, Evelyn said softly, nodding toward me as if I weren't 20 feet away. Women like that loose morals, chasing skirts. Ruins a good man. Tom shifted uncomfortably, but didn't contradict her.
Mom.
That's ancient history. Ancient? We'd met a decade after that scandal. But the venom landed anyway. I gripped the rake handle until splinters bit my palm. Evelyn, if you're implying, she cut me off with a laugh, light as shattering ice.
Oh.
Honey, I'm just saying. Blood tells. And secrets? They always bubble up. That night, in bed, Tom rolled away when I reached for him. Give her time, he mumbled into his pillow.
Time.
As if she hadn't already stolen enough. By Thanksgiving, the house felt like a pressure cooker, the air thick with unspoken accusations. I'd invited my sister, Lena, for ballast, a no-nonsense ER nurse from Milwaukee who called bullshit like she saw it. But Evelyn held court at the table, carving the turkey with surgical precision, regaling us with tales of her saintly sacrifices. Tom was my miracle after the divorce, she said, eyes locking on mine. I'd die before letting anyone hurt him again. Lena shot me a look. What the hell? But I forced a smile, passing the cranberry sauce. Under the table, Ethan's foot nudged mine. A silent I'm here. It cracked wide open after dessert. Ethan, hyped on pumpkin pie, tugged Evelyn's sleeve. Nana, tell the story about Grandpa's ghost. Her face lit up, but twisted into something darker.
Oh.
Sweetie, ghosts are just regrets in disguise. Like when your mommy kept a big one from your daddy. The room went still. Tom's fork clattered. Lena's eyebrows shot up. I felt the blood drain from my face. Evelyn, I hissed. Not now. But she leaned in, voice a conspiratorial whisper loud enough for all. That little hotel slip-up.
Dear.
The one where you played fast and loose while Tom was building his life.
Tisk tisk.
What would the neighbors think? Tom's head snapped toward me. Confusion warring with betrayal.
Mila?
What the hell is she talking about? My heart hammered, the secret clawing up my throat like bile. Lena jumped in. This is insane, but Evelyn waved her off. Just looking out for my boy. Lies fester. You know. I stood, chair scraping like nails on chalkboard. You vindictive old bat. That was for him, for us. The words hung, heavy as lead. Ethan's eyes widened.
Pie fergaten.
And in that moment, staring at the woman who'd invaded my home, I knew this wasn't adjustment. This was war. The fallout from Thanksgiving lingered like smoke after a fire, choking every conversation, every glance. Tom slept on the couch that night, his snores ragged through the thin walls, while I lay awake in our king-sized bed, the sheets cold and vast without him. Evelyn? She retired to her room with a smug good night. Family, as if she'd just won a round of bridge. Lena pulled me aside in the mudroom,
Coat half on.
whispering fiercely,
Mila.
this woman's poison. Get her out before she poisons everything. I nodded, numb. But deep down, a spark ignited, not just fear, but fury. I'd covered for Tom once, swallowed my pride and my truth to keep our fairy tale intact. Now his mother was wielding it like a shank, and he hadn't even defended me. The next morning, over black coffee that tasted like ash, Tom cornered me in the kitchen. Ethan was at school, Evelyn miraculously running errands in my Prius without asking. Talk, he demanded, arms crossed over his broad chest, the one I'd traced 1,000 times in the dark. I leaned against the counter, arms wrapped around myself. That night in '09.
Tom.
The fight at O'Malley's. You blacked out, swung wild, put that guy in a wheelchair. Cops came knocking. I said you were with me, booked that room to sell it. Paid off his medical with my savings, hushed the witnesses. All so you wouldn't lose your license. Your dreams. His face crumpled, then hardened. Why didn't you tell me it cost you that much? Because I loved you. Idiot. And you promised we'd never speak of it. He paced, rubbing his neck, the tick he got under pressure. And Mom? How'd she even know? I laughed bitterly. She's Evelyn. She snoops. She schemes. Probably hacked my old emails on that ancient laptop of hers. He stopped, eyes searching mine.
Mila. I'm sorry.
But she's my mom. She's been through hell. Hell? I'd walked through my own for him. Your hell doesn't give her license to gut me. We stood there, the silence stretching, until he pulled me into a hug that felt more like a truce than reconciliation. We'll fix this. Talk to her. Yeah.
Right.
But talking to Evelyn was like negotiating with a viper. I found her later that day, in the living room, perched on my velvet sofa, like a queen, flipping through a Vogue from 1985. "We need ground rules," I said, standing tall despite the tremor in my knees. She didn't look up. "Do we?
Now?
After your little white lie nearly sank my son's future?" I bristled. "It saved him. And if you breathe a word," she closed the magazine with a snap, finally meeting my gaze.
Oh,
"I'll keep your dirty laundry folded."
dear. For now.
But Tom's a big boy. He deserves to know who he's really married to. The implication hung. Not the loyal wife, but the liar who'd covered a sin. I left the room shaking, vowing silently, "Touch my family again, and I'll bury you deeper than your secrets." Tom tried bridging the gap, inviting her to his firm's holiday party, a black tie affair at the Palmer House. All crystal chandeliers and power schmoozing. I begged off, citing a deadline. But really, I couldn't stomach watching her preen in my shadow. Ethan tagged along with the sitter, oblivious, chattering about Santa while I wrapped gifts alone, the twinkle lights mocking my unraveling world. Tom came home lit up. Ty Askew, recounting how Evelyn charmed the VP into a fat contract extension. "She's a force.
Mila.
You two just need to bond. Bond." As if she hadn't already bonded a wedge between us. The real scheming surfaced in December, when the first snow blanketed the cul-de-sac in deceptive purity. I came home from dropping Ethan at hockey practice to find Evelyn in my office, my laptop open, cursor blinking on an email draft to Tom's boss, anonymous. Of course, detailing concerns about his erratic behavior post-fight rumors. "Just protecting him," she said mildly, not bothering to close the screen. From gold diggers and their baggage. I snatched the laptop, slamming it shut. "Get out."
Now.
She rose gracefully, brushing imaginary lint from her pearls. "Or what? You'll confess your complicity? Ruin him to spite me. Checkmate." She knew my Achilles heel, Ethan, the life we'd built. I let her saunter out, but that night, alone in the attic amid dusty boxes of Tom's old blueprints, I started digging. Evelyn's past wasn't hard to unearth, not with Google and a glass of Merlot for courage. Widowed twice, first husband, Harlan, keeled over from natural causes in '92, leaving her a tidy insurance payout amid whispers of arsenic in his sweet tea. Second, Victor, the heart attack in '05 that cops chalked up to stress, but the obit mentioned unresolved debts and a missing ledger. She'd raised Tom on that nest egg, molding him into her golden boy. But the articles hinted at more, a disowned sister who'd accused her of forgery, a cousin who vanished after a bitter inheritance fight. Patterns. Evelyn didn't just survive, she orchestrated. And now, she was orchestrating my destruction. I confronted Tom with printouts over takeout lo mein. Ethan tucked in upstairs. "Your mother's a black widow."
Tom.
"She's done this before. Played the grieving wife. Cashed in on the grief." He scanned the pages, face paling. "This is tabloid crap."
Mila.
Conspiracy nuts. But doubt flickered. And for a heartbeat, I thought we'd turn the tide. Then Evelyn swept in from her bridge club, eyes narrowing at the papers. "Slandering the dead now? Classy." She snatched them, tearing with deliberate snaps. "Tom. Honey. Don't let her poison you against family." He hesitated, then sighed. "Mom's right. It's the past."
The past.
Again. I stormed upstairs, slamming the door, tears hot on my cheeks. But crying was for the old Mila. The new one? She plotted. Christmas Eve brought a fragile peace. Eggnog flowing under the tree's glow. Ethan's new skateboard propped against the wall. We sang carols off-key. Evelyn's alto surprisingly sweet. And for a moment, I almost forgot. Almost. Until midnight mass, when she cornered me in the vestibule of St. Mary's, candles flickering like accusatory eyes. I know about the payout.
Mila.
That hush money to the victim's family. You dipped into Tom's trust for it.
Didn't you?
My money.
Lie.
It was my inheritance from Dad. The cop who'd taught me loyalty's bite. But she leaned closer, breath sour with rum. Confess to Tom. Or I will. Frame it as your scheme to control him.
Control.
The word ignited something primal. You're the puppet master here, I whispered. But string snap. The new year dawned with a bang, literally. Tom's truck skidded on black ice en route to a site visit, totaling the guardrail but sparing him a crumpled hood and a bruised ego. Evelyn nursed him with bone broth and bedtime stories, sidelining me as the hysterical wife. I took Ethan to the Lincoln Park Zoo, watching penguins slice through their pool, envying their cold indifference.
Mom.
Why's Nana mean to you? He asked, mittens dangling from strings. I crouched, breath fogging. Sometimes grown-ups carry old hurts, like heavy backpacks. Nana's got a big one. He nodded solemnly. Can I help carry yours?
God.
That kid. He was my anchor, the reason I'd endured. By February, the betrayal deepened. Tom announced over breakfast, Evelyn beaming beside him, that she'd convinced the firm to let her consult on admin, citing her business acumen. Translation: she'd wormed into his world, whispering doubts about my instability. That night, he suggested couples therapy. For us, he said. But his eyes darted to her shadow in the hall. I agreed, but only to buy time. Therapy unearthed nothing, Dr. Hale droned about communication, while I secretly met Lena for drinks at a dive in Wrigleyville. File for separation, she urged, nursing a IPA. Document everything. She's gaslighting you both. Separation. The word terrified and tempted. But revenge? That whispered sweeter. I started small. Anonymous tips to the local paper's gossip column about Evelyn's colorful widow's tales. Nothing libelous. Just enough to stir old ghosts. Then, deeper, I hired a PI. A grizzled ex-cop named Ruiz, who texted back grainy photos of Evelyn lunching with a shady accountant in a Loop cafe, discussing estate adjustments. Blackmail? Extortion? The lines blurred. But so did hers. One evening, as spring teased with a thaw, Ethan came home from school with a black eye, some playground scuffle. Evelyn iced it, cooing. But later, alone, she murmured to me, boys will be boys, like their fathers. Keep him in line, or he'll end up broken like that man you silenced. The word echoed, fueling my fire. Spring arrived like a reluctant apology. Tulips pushing through the mulch in our front yard. But the chill in our home lingered. Frost on the windows of trust. Tom buried himself in work, coming home late with Evelyn's casseroles warming in Tupperware. While I mapped my counteroffensive in stolen moments, spreadsheets of her financial discrepancies. Audio recordings of her innocent barbs disguised as concern. Ruiz delivered gold, a 1998 police report, buried in Alabama archives. alleging Evelyn had forged Victor's will to siphon funds from his kids, stepchildren who'd sued and lost, vanishing into bitterness. She's a survivor, Ruiz grunted over burner phone. But survivors like her leave bodies. Bodies. Not literal, but close enough. I printed it all, hid it in a floorboard under our bed, waiting for the perfect strike. Ethan's birthday in April became the battlefield. He turned 9, all gangly limbs and gap-toothed grins, begging for a Cubs game. I planned it meticulously. Tickets, face paint, hot dogs at Wrigley under the ivy. Evelyn inserted herself. Of course, Nana's treat for the cake, but I held firm, dropping hints to Tom about quality time. Just us. The day dawned sunny, the stadium buzzing with that electric Midwestern hope. Ethan hooped as Schwarber cracked a homer, ketchup smeared on his jersey. And for 3 innings, I forgot the war. Tom even laughed, slinging an arm around my shoulders, whispering, "This is us."
Mila.
Remember? I leaned in, heart aching. Always. But Evelyn's shadow loomed. She texted mid-game, "Where's my grandson?" Unsafe, without supervision. Tom replied curtly, "He's fine," but the seed was planted. Back home, cake devoured. She pounced in the kitchen while I loaded the dishwasher. Reckless. Taking him without telling me. What if something happened? Like your little cover-up? Ethan wandered in then, clutching a baseball, eyes bright. Mom's the best.
Nana.
She threw the ball farther than Dad. Evelyn's smile didn't reach her eyes. Sure,
Sweetie.
but best isn't always safe. He frowned, sensing the undercurrent, and scampered off. I rounded on her. Stay away from him. This ends now. She chuckled low. Ends?
Oh.
Honey, I'm just warming up. The flip came swiftly. Evelyn's M.O. Ally one day, adversary the next. A week later, she confided in Tom over golf at Briarwood, tears engineered for maximum pathos, how I'd alienated her, stolen his loyalty. He came home storming, voice low but lethal. You're pushing her out.
Mila.
She's all I have left of Dad. Dad, the ghost she wielded like a club. I fired back. She's using you.
Tom.
Check her emails. Ruiz has proof she's dipping into your accounts for old debts. He scoffed. But I saw the crack. The doubt. That night, he slept in the guest room, with her door cracked open across the hall. Betrayal. Round 2. I escalated. Planted a USB in her purse during laundry. Innocuous files labeled family recipes, but laced with trackers linking to her Alabama skeletons. When she discovered it, feigning outrage, spying on me, paranoid much. Tom mediated, but his tone favored her.
Mila.
This is unhinged. Unhinged. The word propelled me to Lena's doorstep that weekend. Ethan in tow for a sleepover. Over wine on her fire escape. City lights twinkling like distant warnings. I spilled. The PI. The will forgery. The growing rift. Divorce her ass, Lena said. Blunt as ever. Custody battle, I'll testify. Ethan's your shield. But Ethan. He adored Tom. Flaws and all. Ripping that apart? It'd scar him worse than any secret. May brought storms. Literal and figurative, thunder rattling windows as I pored over Ruiz's latest. Evelyn's meetings with a divorce attorney. Not for Tom, but prepping contingencies. Whispering about protecting assets from ungrateful influences.
Me.
She was laying groundwork to paint me as the villain, maybe even tip off authorities about that old fight, twisting my alibi into fraud. I confronted her in the garden, shears in hand, pruning my roses like throats. I know about the lawyer, planning to throw me under the bus. She didn't flinch, clipping a bloom. A mother's prerogative. Tom's too soft. Someone has to guard his empire. Empire. Our home. His firm, built on my sacrifices too. Tom flipped again, this time toward me. After I showed him the attorney's invoice, slipped under her door. Anonymous courtesy of Ruiz. What the fuck? Mom, he bellowed in the den, voices carrying. Evelyn sobbed artfully. She's lying. Baby. Framing me to divide us.
Divide.
The irony burned. He stormed out for a drive, returning hours later with takeout and apologies. I believe you.
Mila. She's
confused. Confused. But the damage festered. He installed a Ring camera at the front door for security, at her suggestion. Eyes now watching my every move. Ethan bore the brunt, retreating into video games, his chatter dimming. One rainy afternoon, he built a fort in the basement with couch cushions, dragging me in.
Mom.
Is Nana a witch? Like in Harry Potter. But bad. I laughed despite the ache.
Nah. Buddy. Just.
Complicated. Like riddles. He poked his head out. Can we solve it? Make her go poof.
Poof.
If only. But his innocence fueled my resolve. I drafted emails to a family law shark, contingency plans for worst case. Revenge wasn't just exposure anymore, it was reclamation. June sweltered, humidity thick as guilt, and the climax brewed at Tom's firm picnic, lawn games on the lakeshore. Brats grilling, kids shrieking. Evelyn shone, in white linen, charming execs with southern drawl, while I manned the cooler, nursing a seltzer and simmering. Ethan kicked a soccer ball with the other rugrats, free for once. But midway, she sidled up, voice honeyed venom. Lovely day. Pity it ends in scandal. She nodded toward Tom, laughing with the CEO. One call to the DA about that assault cover-up, and poof, your castle crumbles. My blood iced. You wouldn't, she smiled. Test me. I tested. That night, post-picnic buzz, I slipped the full dossier under Tom's pillow, reports, recordings, the works while he showered. He emerged, towel-clad, eyes scanning pages in horror.
This.
Jesus.
Mila.
If it's true.
It was.
Evelyn burst and then, hearing voices, claiming I'd planted fakes. The chaos erupted, accusations flying. Tom torn, bellowing at her to explain. She crumpled, wailing. She's destroying us. The liar. The one who hid your crime.
Crime.
The word detonated. Tom's face twisted, shock, then revulsion toward me. You covered. A paralysis? For me? I nodded, tears spilling. I chose you. He backed away. And now, you're choosing war. The argument spilled downstairs. Ethan peeking from the banister, wide-eyed. Evelyn seized the moment, lunging for the phone, calling the police. But I blocked her, shoving hard enough to topple a lamp, glass shattering like our vows. Tom pulled us apart, voice breaking. Stop, both of you, but the damage was nuclear. He slept in his truck that night. Ethan clung to me in bed, whispering, "Don't let them fight." Mom. I held him, plotting the endgame. Controversial? Hell yes. But necessary. July's heat wave amplified the tension. The house a pressure cooker on high. Tom moved to a motel. Space to think, leaving Evelyn and me in armed truce, her smirking over tea. Me sharpening my shears. Ruiz warned. She's lawyered up. Talking immunity for testimony against you. Immunity. For ratting on my alibi. The betrayal cut deepest from Tom. His texts vacillating. I love you.
But this.
Then silence. I visited him at the motel, pleading in the stale lobby. She's manipulating you. Like always. Fight for us. He looked wrecked. Unshaven. I covered for her once. Teenage shoplift.
Said it was me.
Now this? Who's the liar?
Tit for tat.
But his flip back to her came via email. Mom needs me. We'll talk therapy. Rage crystallized. I invited Evelyn to the backyard for truce tea, under the arbor heavy with wisteria. Ethan was at camp. Tom at work. She came, wary but triumphant. Surrendering. Dear. I poured chamomile. Steady-handed. Enlightening. Read this. I slid the Alabama report across the table. Forgery details. Victim statements. Her face strained. Lies. But her voice quavered. Admit it, all of it, and I bury this. Like I buried yours. Standoff. She laughed.
Brittle.
You think you're me? Ruthless. Closer than she knew.
No.
Better. I do it for love. She cracked. Confessing in whispers. The forgeries for security. The husband's accidents as mercy from their pains. Tom was my redemption. Redemption. Twisted. I recorded it all. Hidden in my pocket. But as she rose to leave, eyes blazing, she hissed. You'll regret this. Blood's thicker. Thicker than ink on a page?
We'd see.
August scorched the suburbs, AC humming futilely against the inferno within. Armed with Evelyn's confession, time-stamped, crystal clear, I emailed Tom the file. Subject: the truth she buried. He called at dawn. Voice hollow.
Mila.
Meet me. Coffee shop on Clark. I arrived early. Black Americano steaming. Nerves electric. He slid into the booth. Gaunt. Eyes red-rimmed. Played it. She's a monster. Relief flooded. Then suspicion. Had she flipped him again? What now? He gripped my hand. We confront. Together. For Ethan. Together. The word mended a fracture. Tentative but real. Evelyn awaited at home. Perched in the living room like a deposed empress. A tumbler of scotch in hand, mine.
From the sideboard.
Family meeting, she drawled as we entered. Tom locking the door behind us. I hit play on my phone. Her voice filling the room. The will. The tea, it was kinder that way. Her glass slipped, shattering on the hardwood. You bitch. Blackmail? Tom recoiled. Mom, this is you. She whirled on him. Feral. For us. Harlan was bankrupt. Victor suicidal. I saved us.
Saved.
The delusion hung. Rancid. The confrontation devolved into a maelstrom. Tom pacing. Roaring questions. Evelyn defending with venomous deflections. Your wife hid a felony. She's no saint. I countered. I protected him from himself. From you. She lunged then. nails raking my arm, a scratch drawing pinpricks of blood. Tom yanked her back, but not before she spat. "He's mine, always was." The possessiveness chilled. Maternal love warped into ownership. Ethan burst in from the backyard, home early from camp, duffel forgotten, frozen in the doorway. "What's happening, Nana?" Time slowed. Ethan's eyes darted. My torn sleeve, her wild hair, Tom's anguish. Evelyn, sensing leverage, softened instantly, cooing, "Nothing. Sugar. Just talking grown-up." But he stepped forward, voice small but steel. "Nana, you said Mommy was a liar who tricked Daddy. But I heard you on the phone last night, telling your friend you put stuff in Grandpa's drink to make him sleep forever. That's lying too. And mean." The room imploded. Evelyn blanched, mouth agape. Tom staggered. I knelt, heart pounding. "Ethan, honey." But the sentence hung. That one damning utterance from my boy. "You're the bad guy in the stories you tell." Simple. Shattering. Evelyn crumpled onto the sofa. Sobs racking, not crocodile tears, but genuine fracture.
I
loved them. Too much. Too much. The ambiguity landed like a gut punch, no villainous cackle. Just a broken woman unraveling. Tom stared,
torn.
then crossed to her, kneeling.
Mom.
Why? She clutched his shirt. To keep you safe. Like you kept me. Cycles. The betrayal looped back. Her schemes born of her own buried pains, abandonment, poverty. The first husband's fists she'd never named. I watched, bile rising. Controversial? Absolutely. Part of me pitted her, the scared girl from the shack, choices calcifying into cruelty. But the scratches on my arm burned, reminder of the empire she'd nearly toppled. Ethan tugged my hand. Can we fix it, Mom? Like glue?
Glue.
Kids and their faith. Tom looked up, eyes pleading.
Mila.
What do we do? The decision loomed, gray as Lake Michigan fog. Evict her. Expose her.
Or
forgive, mercy for the merciful, but she'd poison my marriage, scarred my son. We called a lawyer that week, neutral ground, no charges, but a mediated exit. Evelyn agreed to a nursing home upstate. For my health, her bags packed with quiet dignity. Tom drove her, returning hollowed, whispering, she said sorry. For everything.
Sorry.
It thawed him toward me. Nights reconnecting in tentative touches. Therapy sessions unpacking the debris. Ethan bounced back fastest. Forts rebuilt. But his eyes held new shadows, innocence chipped. Yet the twist came in September. Leaves turning traitor gold. Ruiz called a DNA test. Unsolicited. From Evelyn's things, ordered months ago. Results buried in her drawer. Ethan's not Tom's. Biologically. The report cited a one-night lapse during our engagement. A coworker rebound after Tom's pre-wedding jitters. I'd buried that too. Chosen Tom. Raised Ethan as ours. Controversy incarnate. Was I the betrayer or redeemer? I confessed to Tom over wine on the porch. Voice trembling. He's yours in every way that counts. But if you want out. He was quiet. Then he's ours. End of. No rage. Just resolve. The flip I'd prayed for. Evelyn knew. Of course. Had dangled it like a grenade. Another manipulation aborted by Ethan's unwitting bomb. She wrote from the home, blood lies. Love doesn't. Forgive an old fool. Debatable. Happy? In fractures, healing. But scarred. Tragic? In the what-ifs. The roads not taken.
Now.
As Halloween pumpkins grin from porches, Ethan carves ours into a phoenix, rising. He says, like us. Tom's hand finds mine in the chill air. Warm anchor. Evelyn's letters come weekly. Fragile olive branches. I reply sometimes. Guarded. Revenge? It ended everything, and began anew. But in quiet moments, I wonder, who is the villain? The schemer? The cover-up queen? Or the boy whose truth split the world? You decide. That's the American way. Messy. Unyielding. Eternally arguable.